The following program is sponsored by Capitec. Simplify banking, live better.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the Insider Essay, your guide to living better. Join us today as we open up to dreaming bigger and celebrate hobbyists. Explore White River's history and motoring museum with car enthusiast Louis van der Merwe. See how Ross Symons turned his hobby origami into a full-time career. Meet Cheyeza Mulasi, a nuclear engineering student making handmade scented candles. Find out how Chief Information Officer Sachin Nathoo finds escape in his passion for model aircraft. Travel to Montagu with hitmaker Majozi and his fiancé Daniela. And hang out with waterman Willow-River Tonkin. And learn about the new sport of hydrofoiling. Like many hobbyists, Louis van der Merwe's love for classic cars began at a young age. While still at school, assisted by a loan from his parents, he purchased a pair of Panhard Diners, a lightweight motorcar produced in France in the 1950s, and since then has continued to explore his passion and build his collection.
Hi, I'm Louis van der Merwe from White River, from the Casterbridge Motor Museum. I'm a motorcar enthusiast. We're currently at Rodney Green's farm, where a lot of the motorcar restorations are done for the museum. Come and take a look.
Needing space to do restorations, Louis called on the help of Rodney Green, who provided land on his farm that otherwise is one of South Africa's leading macadamia producers.
So we're in the workshop now. This is a P-type MG nearing completion. This car was taken down from a bare chassis and everything's been redone. We find a lot of these cars through old car enthusiasts, being in associations with them in MG, the MG Car Club and other car clubs in South Africa. And we restore them and we manufacture a lot of parts here in White River, including bodies. Okay, so here we're working on a F-type MG, 1933 MG. We start off with a chassis, and it's a bare metal chassis, and then we build up from there. This is an imported body, an ash body clad in aluminium. Currently takes about a year to restore a car, and I'd like to introduce you to Adam, who is an engineer on the team.
Hi, I'm Adam Schneier, a mechanical engineer, busy working on the special MG K2, one of 20 made back in the 30s. We're doing some period modifications to the engine, putting in a slightly bigger supercharger and plumbing that together with the carb linkages and inlet manifold. Busy with a bit of the wiring and the interior, which is worn over the years, together with revarnishing the dashboard and fitting all the gauges back.
Adam also has some advice to share for any potential budding motor enthusiasts.
For the people out there that are eager to start working on these cars and restoring them, first thing is to get all the information, find out how they were made back in the factory. Then from there, make the connections with enthusiasts and car clubs over the country and even overseas, because they will always be eager to help when an issue arises, which does happen all the time. From there, we start working on the cars and we'll bring them back to how they were in its original state from the factory.
The Riley Ulster Imp is a sports version of the Riley 9, one of the most successful light sporting cars produced by the British motor industry during the interwar period.
So this is one of my most favorite cars. It's a Riley Ulster Imp owned by Rodney Green. Just had a new twin plug motor installed, almost ready for the museum. It really is a beautiful car and it's got a beautiful interior. This hobby of mine started about 30 years ago, and the first car was a 1929 Morris Minor that a friend of mine convinced me to buy. He had a big collection of cars. It just started from then.
The White River History and Motor Museum is one of the few places in South Africa where car hobbyists can get a first-hand look at these beautiful machines from a bygone era.
Welcome to the Motor Museum at Casterbridge.
The oldest vehicles on display date back to 1911, not long after automobiles, or horseless carriages as they were then known, were first introduced.
We started building it about 24 years ago as a museum development. It then turned into a little shopping center. And we've got this museum which houses about 60 cars, and another museum at the top under construction which would house about 20 sports cars. So this collection has been built up over a period of 20 years. Includes cars like Morris Minors, Chevs, Essex Terraplane, Austin Sevens. We've got a very early Mini here, an Austin Mini. I think it's the second oldest Mini in South Africa. And we've got a Mini Cooper, Model A Ford. This is a Morris Minor Traveller. I love the interior of this car. The car was completed in the Morris factory and the woodwork was done in the MG factory. So these were the first two cars that we got for the museum. This is a 1929 Morris Minor and this is a 1912 Willys Overland. And when we found it, it was totally original. All the leather was on it, all the brass work, but it was all rotten. So this is all the original stuffing in this car. With this car, you have to start it with a crank.
Before keys became the norm, hand cranks were the most common way of starting a car's engine. Cranking the engine allows the process of internal combustion to begin.
We have another workshop doing restorations here at Castlebridge, and we're currently restoring the 1937 Grand Prix MG. We're busy with the bodywork. We've got the original chassis and motor for that car. It's a very exciting project.
There is, of course, also plenty on offer for those with a more thrill-seeking appetite.
This is the second museum at Castlebridge. It's a sports car museum. I've always had a bit of a passion for old vehicles. Bought my first car, there were two of them, when I was in high school. I got home one holiday and my parents had sold them both. Yeah, my next car after that was a 925 Morris Minor, and it just carried on from there.
The Austin Healey 106 is a two-seater roadster that was first created in September of 1956.
A lot of beautiful cars in here. This is one of my favorites. I just love the beautiful lines and design. It's got a beautiful drive as well. But enough talking, I'm going for a drive. Started.
The car forms part of a collection of 3 vehicles known as the Big Heelys, and car enthusiasts view it as a real classic. With the wind in his hair, Louis reflected on the beauty he sees in these historic automobiles.
Wonderful driving these old machines. I can't really explain it. You really have to try it for yourself. It's a wonderful hobby. I just love seeing a pile of scrap being turned into a working, beautiful motor car. Love it.
For many hobbyists, there is a sense of joy derived from the meticulous nature of carefully restoring the past to its former glory. For Louis van der Merwe, the pleasure is in the process as much as the product. Coming up, learn about origami with Ross Symons from White on Rice and see how nuclear engineering student Cheyeza Mulasi is making handmade scented candles. Ross Symons was able to quit his 9-to-5 as a web developer and turn his hobby for origami into a full-time job. Modern trends in the Japanese art of paper folding have transformed it into a legitimate art form that has afforded Ross a sense of freedom that comes with pursuing one's passion.
I just had a fascination with it after my brother asked me. He was just like, listen, bro, don't you want to learn how to fold an origami crane? It was a project he was busy with. And I learned how to fold that crane, and I think it was about 2001. And I just didn't stop. It was like this obsession. And in 2014, I then decided, cool, I wanted to document myself at least trying to get better at this origami thing, and started an Instagram account and started posting one different origami figure every day of the year, and slowly, just gained a bit of a following.
Ross's skills have been developed over the last 20 years, but things started to really take off when he decided to dedicate the year of 2014 to improving his craft and sharing it with the world.
Like with any skill, you start off by learning from what other people have done. So I just did hundreds of tutorials and read a lot of books around what is possible within origami. And I also started seeing that, all these designs people have created, somebody came up with that design, and that fascinated me. So I just started looking into how you design an origami character. Generally, you start with a square sheet, and there's techniques, some of them quite mathematical and it uses geometry. And understanding all these techniques and rules, you are literally able to create pretty much anything. Something I like to try and do is, if I have a bird base, for example, I try and think to myself, okay, how do I turn this bird base, before it becomes a bird, how do I turn it into a frog? Or how do I turn it into a horse? And by thinking in that way, that's how you learn how to take the basic rules and understandings that you do have of origami in this case, and turning it into something else. I've always had a fascination with film, photography, sound, music, and with this new origami path that I was taking, I wanted to incorporate all those creative ideas and things that I dabbled in the past and try to combine them. So stop frame animation seemed like the most logical thing for me to do, and I just tried. I took a piece of paper, and started shooting, trying to create little animations and tell little stories. At the moment, what I'm trying to do is animate this little paper bird. Now, stop frame animation is quite a tedious process. You basically are taking a series of photographs and stitching them together, which then form an animation or a little story. I'll move it slightly and take a shot. Then on my computer screen, I can see the shot that I've just shot and then the next shot, so I can see the difference. And then you stitch those together and it forms an entire animation. I think a lot of people would think it is quite tedious, but for me it's fun. I don't think about how long it's going to take me to get from the start of the animation until the end. I know what needs to get done, I know the sequence that it needs to happen in, and I start shooting the animation. And I think the first time you watch an inanimate object moving around on a screen and you know that you created that, that's cool. There's a magical element to it which I really appreciate and enjoy.
Ross was impressively able to grow his Instagram account to over 100,000 followers in less than 18 months. The strong appetite for his origami has also helped open doors that have grown his business.
I was posting all the origami figures that I'd folded and some of the animations I'd done onto social media. And I started getting approached by brands to say, hey, listen, we really like what you're doing on social media. Could you create something for us? And I remember the first time I got approached by it was a company from overseas that said, could you make this little stop frame animation for us? How much does it cost for an animation? I didn't know how to charge for it. I didn't know what, how do you do this sort of thing? But I sent them a quote and they said, cool, well, can we have this video and by this date? So I created the animation for them. And I realized then that if I just focus a little bit more on this and I continuously put content out to whoever was following me on social media, eventually more of this kind of work would come in. And that was end of 2014, and I haven't really sort of looked back since. I keep paper with me all the time, just in case I do have an idea or I just want to work on something. There's a place in Cape Town, I'll go sit and have a cup of coffee and sit and fold the latest idea that I'm working on or design that I'm working on. And whatever it is that I'd folded, I'll just leave at the coffee shop. And often people come up to me, they're like, hey, saw this rabbit or whatever you left there and decided to take it and it's at my house now. So which is kind of fun, yeah. A friend of mine had always seen the little things I'd left in coffee shops around Cape Town. And every time she saw one of the pieces that I'd folded and left there, she would post a picture on social media, say, hey, I saw this thing you left there. You all over the place, man. You're like white on rice. She just kept on saying hashtag white on rice, white on rice. And I was like, wow, that's kind of a cool name for an origami project. So I just decided to brand my origami journey, origami career as White on Rice. And that's the brand that I now run. Anyone who is interested in, not working for the man or wanting to do something that's a little bit different in terms of, something similar to what I've done, I would just suggest put your ideas out there. Use social media, use the network that you have, people around you, and just share your ideas and don't be scared to put your stuff out there. Because at the beginning, everyone's bad at what they do, especially something new. But Just keep trying until it becomes a thing. As long as you're doing it because you enjoy it, it doesn't matter how much attention you get for it, it doesn't matter whether you turn it into a career, but if you just keep putting it out there, I truly believe that eventually it will turn into something a bit more than you ever expected.
Here's hoping that the passion Ross Symons has for following his dreams might inspire you to pursue a hobby that could bring happiness or even success. As our journey unfolds, we travel to Pretoria, where Capitec client and master's student in nuclear engineering, Cheyeza Mulasi, has found a unique way to brighten up her spare time, combining her love for science and beautiful things by creating handmade scented candles from scratch, a hobby she is now transforming into a business.
Hi there, my name is Cheyeza Mulasi and I am a master's student researcher. Welcome to my family home. Let's go right in. I'm a final year master's student at Northwest University and I'm currently doing nuclear engineering. Nuclear engineering has a lot of different streams, but what I currently focus on is power generation. So I basically study the fuel that comes from the nuclear reactor and it goes into the waste. So I study that in order to try and mitigate any accidents from happening. To unwind, I usually just go to the gym, take a jog around the area I live in, or just make candles. I've been making candles for about a year now, just to relax and unwind, and it was just something I thought would be different from what I actually study, and it has nothing to do with engineering. So this is a way to just relax. To make a candle, you can use household items like pegs, you can use a jar, you can use a mug as a container instead of these. You can use basically anything. Besides the household items, I order my wicks and my wax online, and I also order fragrance oil and my pretty jars because I like nice things. Ordering online is very simple, it's very safe, especially during a pandemic, especially now that Capitec has introduced the virtual card, so it makes it even easier to process online payments. The Capitec virtual card ensures layers of safety by ensuring that in order to see your CVV number, you need to use your PIN. I chose to bank with Capitec because it was easy to open an account, and I looked at their features and their offerings, and I can track my money very easily on the Capitec app. I'm going to show you how to make a candle, and it's very simple. All you have to do is measure the wax, just to kind of measure how much wax you're using, but that's also dependent on how many candles and how big you want them to be. Next, we are going to fill up this pot. You just need to pour enough water so that this pot is not floating, but it's slightly submerged in the water. So the tricky thing about wax is that it cannot be in contact with direct heat, otherwise you'll damage the wax, hence the two-step boiling. As the wax is melting, I'm just evening it out to melt faster. I am going to start preparing the fragrance. The fragrance is dependent on the size of your jar. To make it easier, I use an egg cup. I just pour that in there just to kind of estimate so that it's easier to suck in with this. Now that my wax has melted, I'm going to now check the temperature. It's at about 80 degrees now, so I'm just gonna put it aside until it gets to about 65 to 70 degrees, because that is the fragrance pouring temperature for soy wax. I use 2 wicks for my jars because it's relatively big, so the 2 wicks kind of allow it to burn evenly. I'm gonna put glue dots underneath just to make the wick stick to the jar. I'm going to use the pegs to keep them straight. There we go, and then I'm gonna go back to pouring the fragrance. So I'm using a vanilla and caramel fragrance for the candles. I'm just gonna make sure that the temperature is round about 65. There we go. Then I'm gonna put the fragrance. This hobby really teaches me patience because you need to be very patient, especially with the temperatures. And it also just allows me to focus on anything outside of my school. And I mean, this is interesting for me. So it's really, really just about getting out of my head for a sec. I am going to now pour it into the jar. This requires accuracy and patience because you don't want any holes. Now we basically just have to wait for 12 hours for the wax to set, and then you can have a finished product. So I've actually turned this hobby into a business called Copper Milk, and I just want to make candles on a larger scale, buy equipment, and make sure that more people have the luxury of these exquisite scents.
Cheyeza shows us that even with a busy life, we can always find time to wind down and do something we love. Shine a light on your hobby by standing a chance of winning a 1,000 Rand cash prize to invest in your passion. Simply reply to the competition post on our social media platforms using #LiveBetter. T's and C's can be found on the insidersa.co.za. Next on the Insider Essay, discover the world of model aircraft with hobbyist Sachin Nathoo. Many hobbyists find extreme dedication for activities that are totally different from their vocations. For Sachin Nathoo, a chief information officer at a private hospital, his passion lies in the world of model aircraft. Sachin has spent most of his life captivated by the building and flying of these incredible machines.
I think like all guys in this hobby, I mean, we all had a passion for anything flying. In those days, I started off with kites, and then I used to go to model flying clubs and watch the guys fly their trainers and their planes, and I just loved all aspects about model aircraft. So I started with the most simplest thing, which was a glider. I used to go off a mountain in Durban and fly the glider, and that's what intrigued my interest, and the addiction just escalated from that point. Model flying is quite popular in South Africa. There's thousands of people that participate in the sport around the country. There are lots of clubs in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, all over South Africa, and you don't actually get to see the sport because we have to fly in very secluded areas around South Africa, regulated clubs such as this one. So yeah, there's a lot of people in different avenues of sports such as jets, planes, helicopters. So yeah, it's a huge sport, but it's a very close-knit community. So you don't actually see it exposed all the time, but it exists and it's there. So anyone wanting to get into the hobby, I would definitely consider an airframe like this. This airframe has been around for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years, and it's the ultimate entry point for anyone wanting to get into the hobby. Moving on from that plane, we've got these little foamies. As technology has evolved, things have gotten a lot smaller and a lot more, a lot more fun to fly. So we've got the more aerobatic planes. This one in particular is an electric-powered model, and it is extremely maneuverable in the air. As you can see, this is a very, very large plane. It's a 100cc plane. It's powered by a petrol engine. Very loud, very intimidating, and this is definitely for the more experienced pilots. As we move on from the petrol-powered planes, we've got the basic turbine trainer planes. This was my first turbine plane. I bought this to understand the power and the response of turbine engines. This has been my passion for many, many years, RC helicopters. These are extremely difficult to fly. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of years practice to be able to fly something like this. I started off by learning how to fly this on a model flying simulator because it's very difficult and very expensive to crash these and learn on the ground. So once I obtained enough skills flying this on a flight simulator, I took it off and the addiction just grew from there. And the skills just grew from there. And then this is my latest turbine jet. It's a lot faster than the other one. It's a lot more intimidating to fly in the sky. It's an extreme adrenaline rush. I absolutely love it and absolutely scared of it at the same time.
When his planes are not out in the airfield, Sachin makes sure that they are well looked after at home.
Yeah, so welcome to my hobby room. This is where I spend most of my evenings, I guess. I think anyone wanting to get into the hobby has to start with a trainer plane. It's so important for people flying model aircraft to realize the orientation of the aircraft when in the air. This is your very, very basic entry-level plane, which I would definitely recommend to anyone wanting to start in the hobby. It'll get you going, it'll get you confident in starting with the RC model aircraft, and yeah, it's a lot more affordable and a lot more forgiving for the entry level. For me, the thing I love most about the hobby is that once I get into it, every other thought in my head goes away, or the high-stress job that I generally work in. I get totally engrossed in the model building, in the setup and assembly of these models. And then the ultimate thrill is to get it up in the air and see it fly. This is one of my radio-controlled jets. It's made completely of fiberglass and carbon fiber. So these type of airframes we tend to import from overseas. The airframe excludes all the electronics. You have to build this entire airframe on your own. This specific jet took approximately 5 months to build in between all my work. You know, you've got to spend a lot of time putting this thing together and making sure it is 100% correct before your maiden flight. The most thrilling aspect about these turbine jets is that it mimics the true scale aircraft in every sense. Every single aspect on the miniature versions replicas the full size, and I just enjoy spending time with these, building them and flying them. It is the most nerve-wracking experience, I think, for anyone to take their model up in the air for the very first time. The setup, the balance of the model, the actual, you know, the thought of whether you've missed anything or you've got everything right in the assembly of it. The initial flight is a very, very scary experience because you cannot ensure these things. You know, if you take off and something goes wrong, you can kiss that investment of your time and money goodbye. But once it's in the air and you see it flying around, and once you successfully land it, you call that a maiden, and if it's done, it's a thrilling experience.
This is a 100cc aerobatic model. That's the class. It's got a 130cc engine in the front. Due to its large control surfaces, it's capable of a lot of advanced maneuvers, which take a lot of practice to get right. This is probably the best performing class of plane, and the maneuvers that you can do with a plane like this are very entertaining.
Flying model aircraft is actually quite difficult. It's actually a lot more complicated than flying a real-size airplane. You see, from a real-size airplane, you're always in the cockpit. You always got the same point of view where right is right and left is left. But when you fly in a model aircraft, you're flying it from a three-dimensional point of view. You're standing on the ground. And you know, you need to be able to fly the plane coming from you at different directions. So when you're pointing the plane towards you and you're flying towards yourself, your right becomes left and your left input becomes right. The most important thing is to understand the concepts of the different directions, flying upside down, flying the right way up, understanding your rudder, aileron controls from different directions. And you will pick up instantly the feel for an aircraft on a simulator. And that's the point then I recommend people to actually get behind the controls of a plane and take off. Otherwise, all you're going to be doing is crashing. All pilots considering getting into this hobby should register with the South African Model Aircraft Association, SAMA for short, and obtain your, should I say, your novice licenses and your student licenses, and then you move up to your solo licenses with the guidance of club members at a registered airfield such as this. Oh, model aircraft can get up to absolutely ridiculous speeds. The world record for a model aircraft with a turbine engine was about 400 miles per hour, which is insane. And you need a lot of skill to be able to see that flying in the air. So I've given you guys a taste of what this hobby is all about. If you want to get into this hobby, find the closest model flying club, go speak to the club members, they'll guide you and they'll give you the advice on how to get into the sport. And I can promise you this, it's a very, very rewarding hobby.
Coming up, explore Montagu with Majozi and his partner Daniela and learn about their hobbies, baking and photography. Adventuring to the Klein Karoo in the Western Cape, we find ourselves in Montagu. This gem of a town has a serene beauty that has captured many who have visited. Among those people is Martley Karlitz of Still.
We totally fell in love with Montague when we drove through Montague from Oudtshoorn around 15 years ago. And as we entered the village, we said there's something really special about this place.
They made a decision to establish a retreat so they could share the magic of Montagu with those who want to explore the town.
Thought quite a long time about a name for this space. And we came up with Still because we believe it's really important for people to become still and quiet, to have a space where you can disconnect or connect.
To handle the interior design, they brought in Hendré Bloem, who has made it his mission to create awe-inspiring interiors with all his projects.
So the name of the house is obviously Still. Everything that was designed, from the architectural concept to interiors, to the placement of art and even the landscaping, was kept quite simplistic. The house is quite a monochromatic, which is a black and white color scheme. And as you'll see, the exterior shows that as well. The art plays a vital role in conveying the desired mood. The beautiful works by Anton Smit, both sculptural and in painting, was used and placed in strategic positions where they highlight architectural details, but also more importantly, highlight the art themselves and the details that they show. I knew that nature from the outside would pretty much be visible from everywhere on the inside of the house. Sliding screens that serves a practical but also an aesthetic purpose. But a very practical aspect would be that they let wind through, so obviously fresh air can come in, but then also it blocks the harsh Karoo sun. And the added advantage is obviously the shadows that gets cast when the sun shines through them, and it really becomes an art piece in itself.
They invited singer-songwriter Majozi and his partner and content creator Daniela to come and share in the Still experience.
Wow, look at this. Look at this amazing view, so serene, so peaceful. I love it.
Beautiful mountain range.
Yeah.
I really love Montague.
We are definitely coming back here. I met Daniela at a Gangs of Ballet show. They were friends of mine, and I went to the show and she was hanging out with mutual friends. So I couldn't look her in the eyes because I thought she was so beautiful. You know, she had such a big, beautiful smile. And I was just too scared to talk to her, to be honest. I was very shy. Yeah, I basically couldn't get her out of my mind. I messaged her friend that I knew, and then through that we got contacted. We were friends for a long time, and eventually we started dating. So what do you think about this space, Amor?
I feel very at peace. I feel still.
Yeah, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so serene. Like, I really appreciate the way they've designed this. It just makes me feel like I'm at home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful home, and you can just hear the birds outside, see the mountain range. Can't wait to explore Montague.
Next, for their visit to Montagu, it's time to head out and explore the charm that the town has to offer.
Quite an amazing town. It's so beautiful and peaceful. Like, I feel like it's so quiet, there's no one around.
Yeah, and all the beautifully preserved buildings as well.
Yeah, like the church. I mean, that church is really beautiful.
Visiting the town's baker, Alfred Henry, was a special moment as they both enjoy baking as a hobby.
Here we do a nice range of artisanal products, ranging from our artisanal sourdough breads, our ciabattas. We also do a wide range of pastries, all homemade by myself. We use a lot of different elements in our cooking. A lot of it is seasonal, and we take our influences from the seasons here in the town. We either purchase from the farmers or we get from the farmers. So we use a lot of the fresh fruits, pecans, almonds, and we adapt our pastries and our pies and everything to those seasons.
As you know, I've been making cookies at home. This has inspired me to bake a little bit more, you know? Like, I've seen some things I like, I think I might try at home. But I mean, I said I'm the baker, but you're the real baker, eh? How long has it been?
I mean, I've only been doing it since I was 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love baking. It started with my friends saying, you know, oh, I'd really love a 7-layered rainbow cake. And I was a 15-year-old. I was like, you know what? I'll make that for you. And ever since then, just continued baking. Love blessing people with baked goods, whether that be a cake, cupcakes, cookies sometimes.
Cookies, yeah, that's right.
So we've explored the town by feet. Let's get some wheels, Amor.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, look at my colors, beautiful colors over here. I got balloons. Why did you choose yours?
Well, the leaves remind me of the serenity of Montague.
Ah, that's good. That is good. Let's go.
Let's go.
Right on.
Well, there we go.
Are you okay? You?
Maybe.
Daniela's ability to capture the moment and share it on social media, which started as a hobby and turned into a career, has helped Majozi build his online presence and relate to his fans.
I love sharing life
That
and
you
just, yeah, different experiences, helping people hopefully see the world, see something new.
Yeah, and you do it so beautifully, Amor.
With creating content, I love sharing stories, so it's really natural that, you know, we started sharing stories about you and why you did things.
Yes, together, yeah, you helped me kind of connect the audience with who I am at home, you know, not just who I am at stage. And you do that stuff brilliantly, you know, you connect with people's emotions and you always ask the why and the how. And I think that's the great thing about all the content that you share. There's always a why and a how involved in it.
Yeah, it's creating with purpose.
Yeah.
Love and purpose, and making people realize, I guess, who they are and who we are as people.
Yeah, and here we are. I mean, years later, I've got you in my life. I mean, in the beginning of my career, I came to Montagu and it was one of my highlights, doing a New Year's show, and here I am with you 7 years later.
Going back to the house, we meet up with chef Sophia Lindop, who specializes in delicious Lebanese dishes, like maglubir, a mixture of rice and meat with fried aubergine.
How's it going over there, mi amor?
It's going well, we're just chopping away.
Nice.
What's with the mi amor? So mi amor comes from, I guess, my side. My mom's Argentinian, so I'm half Argentine. And I thought it'd be a cute, personal, sort of unique thing. And a way of bringing culture as well to call him mi amor, which means my love.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, there we
You
go.
guys make a great team.
Thank you very much.
Do you cook together at home? Do you like to cook?
Yeah, both of us love cooking. It's another form of creativity, and it's good to learn new skills together.
Yeah.
Cooking in Sophie's kitchen.
Was success.
Okay, so now for the pilaf part. We're going to fry the onion until it's nice and brown and all the flavors have developed. Then we're adding these tiny blocks of lamb. Now in Lebanon, meat is very expensive, so they use meat to flavor dishes. So we're going to fry the meat and the onion and get all the flavors out. Then we fry the cubed aubergine, and then we fry the rice. Okay, so now that we lined the dish, what we're going to do is take the rice, and Daniela, what you can do is scoop it in here, and then what I want you to do is flatten it a bit, and then the next layer and press it down. One more.
Great job.
Now, Majozi's gonna flip this.
Don't worry, guys. I've got this.
And
I need some encouragement.
Okay.
I need a clap. I need a little drum roll. Yeah, here we go. Hey!
whoa! Okay, now we
Now lift it up.
slowly.
Yay! Victory! Yes. Thank you very much, guys.
While enjoying their delicious meal, we learn about how from spending time together, they came to realize their desire to share their lives together.
So we recently got engaged. It was just at home on the couch. Beautiful helium balloons, because that's something he's always done for me in the past. And pink everything, wearing pink everything. And it was just a beautiful moment shared between the two of us. And
Fairy lights.
And in the presence of God being there as well. It was beautiful.
There's so many qualities that I love about Daniela, I can't really single one out, but I mean, I'll say a few of them. Like, I love how smart she is, how clever she is, because like, I mean, most people don't get to see it, to be honest. Like, I get to see it. She's very inquisitive about things. I think for me, that's the best quality about her, because she really gets to the nitty-gritty of things, and that's how she got to the deepest parts of me.
I think the quality I love the most about you is you are the personification of kindness.
Me?
Yeah, of the word kind. He's so generous, so available, so patient, but he always shows grace to people. It's not only does it show in your music, but even when you enter rooms, like, there's just such a presence of peace because of how kind you are.
Saying I've got a lot of wisdom. Wisdom, is that what you're saying?
Said kindness.
I'll always be there by your side. So don't go giving up, because I'll be there when the sky is falling.
Falling is a song that I wrote about Daniela, and if you look over here, this is actually the single cover for the song.
This little bear's name, which is Cielito, is also in the song, because Maj says, mi cielito, mi amor, which means my little piece of heaven, and mi amor means my love.
Yeah, and I wrote it for Daniela because she has been on a journey with depression and anxiety, and I just wanted her to know that through all of that I'd always be there with her, and no matter what, you know, even if the sky was falling. And that's pretty much how the song came about. And through the song, we also decided to do some cool jerseys called Majozis, play on my surname, Majozi. And this year, we've got a very special one that Daniela designed with beautiful loved embroidered over here, as well as a heart over here.
Matching Cielito, heart on the sleeve, because Maj always puts, you know, his heart into his songs, so people say that he wears it on his sleeve. And we're hoping that people can show more compassion, you know, and realize that they too are loved as they walk through the world and journey through life.
It was a great time away, man. I'm so glad I got to do this with you, because I love you so much. I love you.
I love you.
When the stars are falling from the skies, and your days turn into endless nights, no, I'll always be there by your side.
Next on the Insider Essay, head out to the beaches of Durban and learn about hydrofoiling with Willow-River Tonkin.
Sponsored by Capitec. Simplify banking. Live better.
Willow-River Tonkin is a man of the ocean who has dedicated his life to various water-based sports, including surfing, kite surfing, stand-up paddleboarding, and now hydrofoiling.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Willow-River Tonkin. I'm a professional ocean athlete from Mauritius, and I love spending my time in South Africa for training. And I'm going to talk to you guys about the new era of surfing called hydrofoiling.
Hydrofoiling has been around for just over 10 years, captivating adventurous hobbyists and professional sports people from all over the globe.
My passion was born when I moved over to Mauritius about 10, 12 years ago. My father was an avid surfer and he loved the sport, and so obviously he wanted to get me into it. And so since I was 15, I've been sponsored professionally for kite surfing and doing the sports I love on the water, and been traveling all around the world doing the things I love. So today we are basically going to be showing you guys a little bit what hydrofoiling is all about. I've got my unifoils here. These are locally made in South Africa. It's a work of art. This is a hydrofoil. The water flows over the wing, just like air would flow over an airplane wing, and that generates lift on the foil, which makes you fly above the water. So it's a pretty amazing feeling. It's a sensation like no other sport I've done, and just can't wait to show you guys what it's all about out there. So what happens is that this right here connects onto the bottom of your hydrofoil board. So it actually attaches, you bolt it into the bottom over here, and that sticks the foil onto the board that when you go out on the water, it doesn't come off and you can actually ride waves with it. So the main difference with this board is that it's a very small board. It's got a lot of volume, but if you compare it to a traditional surfboard, it doesn't have fins like this one over here. So this board, obviously you can't attach a hydrofoil. It's still a lot of fun out on the water, but it definitely doesn't get you flying.
Like any professional athlete, it's important for Willow that he keeps himself in peak physical condition at all times to ensure he performs at his best.
So as much as I spend time training and being out on the ocean doing the sports I love, I spend a lot of time off the water and training, cycling, running and swimming. I do a lot of these kind of sports to stay fit, to be able to push my body to the limit, so I'm prepared for when I'm out on the ocean and when the waves get really big.
We head out to explore the KZN coastline at Durban North Beach along the seafront's Golden Mile.
So, you know, obviously it can seem intimidating having this big thing underneath your board. So make sure you go check out a school, a hydrofoiling school, to get out on the water. Otherwise, hopefully you have a friend that'll be able to introduce you safely into the world of foiling. Just like today, I got a friend of mine, Ali, who's coming down to the beach, and I'm gonna give him a couple tips, teach him a bit of the basics, and head out on the water together to have some fun. So as the waves are pretty small today, we're gonna have to take quite a big foil. So that's why I've chose this one over here. It's a bit larger than usual, but obviously today the waves are about 1 to 2 feet high. When it gets really big, I tend to take a much smaller foil so I can control the foil in much higher speeds and in much bigger waves. And basically, I'll be able to pump with almost no power using the waves. So just using my legs, I'll be able to fly around the beachfronts here in Durban.
Joining Willow today is friend and professional kiteboarder Alessandro D'Ambrosio.
So when I stand, where's the best place to put my feet? Further back, further forward, in the middle? What's the best?
You want to put your foot on top of the mast. So right underneath you, your hydrofoil connects to the bottom of your board, and you want to have your back foot right on it and your front foot somewhere here in the middle of the front pad. Right. And that should set you up to be able to ride perfectly out there.
And will the foil come out of the water while I'm still on my stomach, or do I stand up while it's still low and then get onto my feet?
Yeah, so you want to, when you stand up on the wave, you want to make sure the board is still flat on the water.
Okay.
Slowly stand up, and then you can slowly start leaning back to bring the foil out the water. And if you lean too far back, it's going to throw you off.
And too far forward, I'm going straight down. Okay, let's get out there.
Let's hit it, bro.
As soon as they gain speed from a wave, the hydrofoil lifts the board up using kinetic energy. Being raised above the water means less resistance and more freedom to glide through their ocean playground.
So guys, this is what foiling is all about. Pumping around, catching waves, having a lot of fun. Woo!
These guys are right at home in the water, but we managed to coax them out briefly to give some helpful tips for anyone wanting to try hydrofoiling for themselves.
That was really, really, really fun. Crazy the conditions that you can go in. It was so bad, it's windy, it's tiny, and we can still go on a hydrofoil. With surfing, we wouldn't even consider going out right now. So thank you so much, bro. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Want to go again.
So what advice would you give to someone that's wanting to get into hydrofoiling, and what would be your #1 tip for them to consider when they give it a try?
Yeah, my advice would be like, definitely be patient, because it's not easy at the start, but it's so much fun. And just go with someone that knows what they're doing, because you know the safety is there and they show exactly what you need to do. Foot placement is so important, so just be patient, don't rush it, and after a couple tries you get the feel of it. It's really good. So yeah.
It was so much fun, you know, it's crazy how much fun you can have when the waves are so small and windy. You know, it's not the best conditions for a normal surfboard, but you get that sensation of flying, which you have in almost no other sport, and just had so much fun out there with Ali and absolutely loved being on the water with him. I think the future is super bright for the sport. You know, we're right at the beginning of a new era of surfing. It's just been born, it's right in the early stages. I think with wing foiling, kite foiling, and hydrofoiling in the waves, there's just so much room for exploration and for developing that, you know, it's so awesome being a part of pioneering one of the new sports in the ocean. So what's next? Well, pushing the sport, pushing myself to the max, and just hoping to inspire as many people out there as possible. You know, I want to get as many people in the ocean. I want people to enjoy what I'm enjoying out there and feel connected to the sea just as much as I do. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. Had so much fun out there, and I really hope it inspires you to get out there and try hydrofoiling, or even just get out there in the ocean. Thanks, Ali, for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
It was so much fun.
So much fun. Let's get back out there.
Let's do it.
Get more of the Insider SA online. Follow, connect, engage, and be inspired to live better with the Insider SA. Watch the show Monday evenings at 5:30. Repeat Saturday at 1 on S3.